what the deal with the business is. And that business right there was my window. And that wasn't a rhetorical question, the previous part of that. It's a real question, man, what the business is. And today, right now, the business is confidence, man. You must always speak with confidence. And having confidence is something that you should just always strive to do. I'm working with that with myself. And I had to realize that a lot of what I'm doing and what I'm going through right now is to build that, and it's to help someone else who might be struggling with that have that confidence to empower themselves. You know what I mean? So sometimes we limit ourselves and not realizing we limiting someone else at the same time, man. So speak with confidence, embolden yourself to just stand up and say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done, and don't worry about that. I was talking to somebody, and they was giving some jewels about fear and doubt and things like that, but they were saying it in terms of land. They was giving an analogy, and it's like we limit ourselves talking about owning this and owning that. But did the Creator create us to even be squabbling about land and ownership of said land? Because we have this tool, a brain, a mind to build and create. But we limit ourselves by even worrying about minor things, man. And that's one of the struggles that I always had, was just always self-confidence to know that you can speak and say what you say and be wrong, and that's okay. You don't have to necessarily be right in every situation or every thing you speak on. But if you're saying it with the confidence of knowing that you believe what you're saying, and then someone give you the correction to say, okay, well, the sky is blue. It's not green, like you might be colorblind while you think that. And then, you hear it enough, and then you're able to say, okay, you know what, the sky is blue, based on better information. So don't limit yourself with self-doubt. Don't limit yourself with, having doubt, you're limiting yourself. Have the courage to say what you're thinking, and don't feel some kind of way if everyone don't agree with how you saw it or see it. So I'm going to try to be more, or not try, I'm going to be more confident in the things that I'm saying and bringing forth, because I'm realizing that, you're supposed to learn from each other, and you're supposed to do what you're doing so someone can learn from you, and have the ability to just say it without feeling like everyone is not going to agree with you. And then you end up, later on rehashing and thinking about, oh, why this and why that. And a perfect case in point was probably about 2 hours ago. I'm at a place when I see one of the person I think is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. You could say, oh, it's position. Okay, cool. We can break it down into that. And I'm seeing this man, the great Mr. Shaquille O'Neal. And my brain is like, oh man, how you doing, Mr. O'Neal? Top 3. I know you said Kareem or Wilt, but man, you're the greatest center I've ever seen. Dominant, and I'm thinking all of these things in my mind, and I'm seeing him like 5 feet right there, and didn't have the confidence to interrupt and say, hey, not even interrupt, because he's so cordial and, taking pictures with the people there. But just to say that to him, and that's what me and the other gentleman was talking about afterwards. Not that specifically, but he was saying that as he was younger, he used to have those fears and doubts in his mind, where he's talking to somebody and he's thinking about an hour, 2 hour, how to say what he's thinking in his head, and never did say it. So now I'm thinking to myself, now here I am exuding, doing the same thing, but maybe I'm supposed to say these things so I can give it to someone else, so that they don't go through those same struggles, and have the confidence to say, hey, how you doing, what have you, A, B, C, D. Because it wasn't like he was going to say, hey, man, I'm not the greatest or what have you. He was a very friendly fella while he was there, you know. But my thought was, I don't want to interrupt this man. He's here conducting business. But in the overall scheme of things, I don't believe he would have had any kind of apprehension to just, hey, how you doing? I think you're such and such. But it was that lack of confidence that I had to feel like I was interrupting when it really wasn't. But I had to give that to you so that you can do better with it. You know what I mean? And as I build and grow from self-doubt, fear, and all of them things to get better with it, you know, someone else can be inspired by that, man. And if I'm not living the tenets of I Ramble, which is not just giving entrepreneurial advice from other entrepreneurs, but imparting some just everyday tools so that someone can use to better themselves, then I'm doing a disservice as well, man. So I'm working on that as well. You know, even entering a room and, hey, how's everybody doing? Things like that. That's never been something I do. I enter a room and I say hi to probably the closest person next to me, this, that. But my personality has always been one to be, you know, the fly on the wall, that, you know, not interrupt what's going on type of thing. But that's maybe not, you know, I may not be interrupting nothing. You know, people might be happy to hear a greeting from the new person in the room or what have you, man. So those are things that I'm trying to work on and hopefully give some inspiration to someone else so they can work on themselves and not have any of those struggles either, if they even have them struggles. You know, that's one thing I always not envious. I try not to be envy, but appreciate when I see someone able to walk into a room and say, hey, man, what's going on? How everybody doing? And next thing you know, they're the life of the party or this, that. Not necessarily life of the party, but they're not having any kind of apprehensions in terms of things like that. And able to, you know, be more sociable, if that's what it is, you know. So, and it wasn't like I didn't have social skills or things like that, but maybe it's more self-conscious than anything else, you know. So I'm trying to work on that, and that's part of what we do with I Ramble, is we're trying to give you any kind of step, any kind of thing that we can give you to help you better yourself in terms of your building and your growth. And that's part of my building and my growth. If you know me, I'm always, you know, the laid back person in the room, not really doing too much of the talking in the room. I'm just laid back, you know. So I'm working on that myself. I ain't gonna say it's gonna change overnight, but really, if you work on it on a daily basis and have it to say, okay, when I enter the room, yeah, I'm gonna say, hey, and when ain't nobody say nothing, it ain't gonna deter you. You're still gonna say, hey, and what have you, because you know you're working on building something that you know you wasn't naturally doing in the first place. So that's one of my quirks and one of my let's say shortcomings that I'm working on and trying to do better at. Because I always try to say, you know, networking is a very good thing, and sometimes you can not say nothing and limit yourself in networking, or might miss out on networking because you didn't say something, and then end up rehashing it over and over again, and then self-traumatizing yourself because you're rehashing something that you can't do anything about in the current space. So I just said I'm gonna just do better in terms of these thoughts that I have that I know might be able to help someone build themselves in their growth. Because if you learn, if you go through something and you're able to impart it on someone else to help them build themselves, then it's a win for both of you. Because now you stepped out of a shell that, you know, was limiting you in the first place, and now you're able to do better with it, you know. And talking to this person that I was talking to, man, he's so direct with his talk that it's inspiring, you know, and I definitely wanted to thank him for that, because his inspiration, or he's an inspiration to allow me to be more confident in stepping outside of my natural inclination, which limits myself in networking. You know, I notice that when I'm around people who I'm more familiar with, I'm more able to verbalize myself. But around strangers or people who are new to the surrounding, I'm more not standoffish. I'm just more reserved, because I'm trying to find out, you know, what's going on, more so than anything else. You know, I really don't mean nothing personal by it in no way, shape, or form. But I just know that I'm not as outgoing as I need to be or should be. And I need to also know that, or be all ever conscious of the fact that I'm doing this for someone else. So it's not necessarily that I'm saying this to just better myself. If someone else can gain some inspiration from it and now use that in their building and their growth, then that's a real good thing too. And don't mind me as I ramble, because that's why we call it I Ramble, because I notice that I tend to just have these thoughts from time to time and be sporadic. But what I'm realizing too is that we're in the time where we have a platform where you can create a platform and be therapy to yourself and others. So it's, you put it out in the universe and let the universe do with it as it will. And then you just build and grow from there. And before you know it, you're in a place or space that you feel much more better and more conducive to your growth. So that's kind of what I'm going to end up doing more and more now with the I Ramble platform, is to be able to use this as therapy for myself, to get some of the quirks or angst out. And if anyone can use that to get any of their quirk and their angst out, then it's just a mutual benefit, man. And it was just so good to talk to this dude earlier, because every time we had a conversation, he just says things so plainly, because it's tried and true to him. And then he even said something earlier too that kind of harkens back. He's like, you know, maybe 6 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to speak so confident in some of the things I speak confident in. And I find that with myself too, because I do electrical work, and in my electrical work, I feel very confident in what I do. So when I'm speaking with other dudes in the trade and we're having a conversation about either troubleshooting or fixing this or fixing that, I speak up and say, okay, yeah, maybe we need to do this or maybe we need to do that. But then in a different setting or a different scenario, I'm more reserved, laid back, like, okay, let's see what's going on. I ain't going to say anything. And I might have a thought about it. I might have a feeling on it, but I don't say it. You know what I mean? So I'm working on doing that part of it, which is really the more social side, or sociable, I don't know if that's how you say it. You know, sociable side of trying to build and grow, and not feeling like it's a lack if I didn't or don't. We another thing we were talking about is just how temporary we are. Another analogy is like a rock is, how long is the lifespan of a rock? And how long is your lifespan? So he was saying that to basically say we're temporary. So as much as you can speak confident to what you believe and know, you need to do that. Because that rock gonna be here for however long, but you won't. So stand strong and speak and say what you need to do, what you need to. So if you're going through it, you're suffering any kind of social anxiety, you're suffering with any kind of depression, any kind of thing, like, man, get the help you need. Seek it. Speak to somebody who, it may be a stranger or what have you, man. It don't necessarily have to be someone who you think might judge you or feel some type of way about what you're thinking and feeling. But you need to verbalize it. You need to say it. You need to do it, because you're holding yourself back, even if you don't know it, and you might know it. But either way it go, you're still holding back your growth by not doing it and not saying it. So make sure you do that, man. And that's what we're going to try to do as much as we can, is to say these things and thoughts that we're feeling, because we're on this trying to figure out, why we're here. But we're supposed to be sponging each other. We're soaking, we're our brains are sponges, and we're supposed to be, giving each other some information so we can soak it up and build and grow. So that's kind of what we're going to do, man. And if you just say each one can teach one and build and grow from it, that's what we're going to do. And if it can help you, if you can gain some information from it to help somebody else with anything that they struggling with or anything they going through, just do it and say it. Don't be so conscious to be worrying about what other people are thinking and saying. It's okay to be wrong if you say what you say, and then getting better information to do better with it. You always reserve the right to change your mind based on better information. Don't always be stuck in one train of thought, because you're trying to gain better information to make better decisions. So feel free to empower yourself that way, through the information that you gain and through the information that you got, to make better decisions. And know if you don't do that, then you are limiting yourself, man. You are stunting your own growth. So don't do that. You're going to end up self-traumatizing yourself, rehashing maybes, if I, woulda, shoulda, coulda, and all of those things. Be always mindful of the right now, and always kind of make your decision. Not always make your decision, just be so conscious of the right now as the only thing that's real. Yesterday happened, tomorrow didn't come yet, but you're in the right now. I was watching something the other day, I think it was even sports related, where they were saying they had sports psychologists, and a lot of time what they teach you is to be just cognizant of right now. Don't get out your own head, and all of those things. The guy's in a shooting slump because he's in his own head. He needs to get out his own head and just play and just right now, zone and focus on right now. And it translates, a lot of these things that you hear, it translates from whatever arena to real life. Some advice, some of these different things, man. So just don't be afraid to be in the right now and be confident in the right now. And it's real weird to me to even be speaking this way, because I hear these thoughts in my head, but to verbalize them was always one of the things I didn't do unless I was in a comfortable surrounding. But I was so self-conscious as to, what's someone going to think if I say this, or if I laugh loud and someone hear me laughing, what are you laughing at? It was a joke. It was something said funny and I laughed, and I always had to in my brain have some explanation as to why I'm laughing, when that's really just self-consciousness for no reason. But I had to realize that if I don't verbalize these things, I'm hurting myself, and then I'm not giving someone else the confidence to deal with what they deal with. Live your truth. Be yourself. Be whoever you know yourself to be confident in that. Don't let no one hold something against you in order for you not to grow. Deal with the situation. Don't feel like no one else is going through it, dealing with it, or struggles with it. It's not just you. It's billions of people. What is like 7 billion people? Obviously there's going to be a vast amount of people that's dealing with the same thing, struggling with what you struggling with, and can relate. That's why they got different groups. That's why they got different meetings. So like-minded people can help each other through any struggles that we're going through. And I just have to make sure I'm more cognizant of the fact that If I don't do this or that, then I'm doing myself and anyone else who can benefit from it a disservice, man. And I just mentally think back on how many times that I let that happen or did that. But like I said, yesterday already went by and tomorrow didn't happen. So there I go right there, self-traumatizing myself to a certain extent, even though I know I'm saying it for someone's benefit right now. But I'm just trying to remind myself that I had continuously go through that cycle of not doing or verbalizing something that I know I should have did and said, man. So a lot of things what we do with this Ramble platform really is to reach out to people who's been through it, who's done it, so that you can feel confident in doing it. You know, I was talking to this dude, it's one of the episodes coming up, and I was trying to get some information on really how he got into the industry. And he exudes such confidence in how he speaks, which is the reason I had reached out to him to do one of these episodes with the Ramble, man, is because, and it's ironic his name is Man, but it's because he speaks so plain. I always tell myself we walk around with rabbit skin, but we should get some alligator so some of this stuff can wash off and it don't stick to the fur so easy when someone's giving us criticism or critiquing anything that we doing. We take it so personal instead of realizing it could have been meant two ways. But the way you take it is the way it's gonna affect you. So it may not necessarily be meant that way. And he just speaks so plain and so direct and to the point and so confident in what he do that he had to harken back to the fact that, you know what, many years ago I wasn't this confident in it and I wouldn't have spoke so bold and plain. But now, because I've grown and gained knowledge, that was one of the number one things he said, is that I grew and gained so much information in what I'm doing, so I'm able to speak confident in what I say, because I try to cut through all of the unnecessariness in what I'm saying to someone. And sometimes you still got to be mindful too as well, because it's like applesauce and steak. You know, a baby's not ready for steak, but as they grow, you be able to cut the steak up in little pieces and give them a little piece. You might have to chew it up a little bit, but it's in time you get the food that you're supposed to get. But if you're mindful, then that person, based on wherever they're at in their growth and elevation, they'll be able to take it more palatable, let's say, you know what I mean? But if you're more mindful too that the person didn't necessarily mean it in a negative way, you can always take it a positive way too. I tell myself, you know, if you're you see a curb or what have you, you don't necessarily got to think you're about to fall. You can think you're about to fly, because neither one of the two happen. But so you don't necessarily got to take it the negative way. You can always put that positive spin on it, because neither one happened. So don't dwell on the negative aspect or the negative way whatever said thing could have went, because it didn't go that way. So you have the opportunity, you have the power to create whatever it is and however it go. And one of the other analogies he had said was, it's a joystick, you know what I mean? You have the controller to your life. You decide whether you go right or left or what have you. It's not necessarily all of these outside forces that control it. You know, yeah, they're there, but they don't have to necessarily control how you conduct yourself or how you take the advice or information that was given to you. You know what I mean? So just always be mindful of the fact that you have a lot of the control as to how things go in your life. And you have to be strong enough through probably repetition, through, like I said, groups and being around like-minded people. You know, when you, like, if you stop drinking, you don't necessarily want to be around a bunch of people who is drinking, because, you know, you might fall off the wagon. I think that's what it is. You might fall off the wagon being around a lot of people that drink if you're no longer drinking. drugs. If you're no longer into drugs or do drugs, it might not be a good idea to be around people who's doing drugs or are into drugs, you know? So, like, goes back to just being in control of what you can control, and you have the choice to let whatever it is affect you in whatever manner it affects you in. So just be mindful of that too, and build, man. Just build, move forward. Whatever you're going through, like I said, whatever you're struggling with, find a resource where you can reach out to get some kind of help to navigate through it. Any kind of thoughts, any kind of feelings you might be having, there's always, and there is definitely people and resources out there for you to find to help in any kind of struggles that you're having. And like I said, I'm just going to make sure I be mindful to use this platform as a way to help anyone through any of those struggles, because I know I have them myself and I'm working through them. And it's just through the grace of God and through the blessing of the universe that I'm able to see and do this, because this was so against my natural inclination previously. I'm just constantly working to tell myself that no, this isn't unnatural. You're thinking and making it unnatural. You're limiting yourself by thinking you can't. There's no such thing in terms of that. So this is going to be therapeutic, or some therapy for me to help, work through those things, man. And like I said, call this our ramble, because I tend to go, I find myself even at work, after I have conversations with people, rehashing the conversation 6-7 times in my head. What did they mean by that? What did he say? What did he say? And I have people walk up to me, and I turn around, someone stand behind me here, and we have a whole conversation with myself about something me and somebody just said. And I turn around, they're smile, laugh, or whatever. But I'm trying to work through whatever conversation I just had. Sometimes that was a form of therapy to me as well, was rehashing conversation that I just had with somebody. Is that what they mean? And sometimes they didn't even mean necessarily how I took it, but I'm trying to rehash it in my mind to see if that's what they meant. So, but I have the choice, like I say, to take whatever connotation from it. And that some of that is based on, how well you know that person. That's why I always end up being so quiet in a room or what have you, because I'm trying to feel out the people to see what they mean from what they say. But it's an ongoing process, because just like I love movies, man. That's kind of one of why I reached out to this person as well, because that was therapy for me. It's like it took me into a different world where I can visualize and deal with certain things or whatever. So I was able to kind of, I want to say, use the fantasy of that movie to kind of deal and cope with things, man. But I do end up, I'm doing some things while recording this, and that's another thing I'm not going to be so self-conscious of, is feeling like I have to be sitting down at this computer desk trying to impart this information or what have you. But so if you hear a bit of goings on, they had just came to try to fix this AC, man, and I'm trying to plug it in. It's a window unit, don't have any central air. So I'm over here bending down trying to plug this thing in to see if this joint works. Because before this, please believe me, Yeah, but yeah, that. So if you're dealing with it and you can find therapy in creating yourself a podcast, creating yourself, recording yourself, and not even putting it out, because you're able to just communicate and verbalize things that you were just thinking. Whatever works for you is kind of what I'm saying. However it works, just go do it, because that's the only way you can. That's the only way to fix it, man. It's to actually do it. You can think about it all day, every day, but until you finally do it, like cleaning the house, it could be very messy. But if you start in one area, eventually you're gonna get to the end part of the clean. But you actually have to start the clean. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with this. You're going through any kind of things, or you're trying to put something together and you're formalizing it. Get you a notebook, a pen, paper, and start to put down some steps, and just daily take steps, check marks off, check mark, accomplish this. Finally got a tape recorder, finally got a notepad, and I'm writing this down. Finally, just make some steps positive towards what you're trying to do. Baby steps to better health. Baby steps, man. So, but you know what? It starts with a step. So, take them steps forward. Like I said, I'm going to try to just do this more often, so that if it helps anyone, because I know it's going to be therapy for me, but it's not just about you, it's about everyone else, you know what I'm saying? So someone can find solace or therapy in the fact that you're doing that. And you never know, that one person that might be on their last can say, you know what, catch their second win with the fact that you was able to do whatever it was that you did, and a lot of people in trying to start their business, they're just at their wits' end. They've tried this, they've tried that, but little did they know if they would have tried this other thing, then it would have, it would have worked. I was listening to this, I want to say it was Nightingale, and they was talking about a man who heard about like a gold rush or what have you, and it was his neighbor, and he bought some land from a man and went to digging for gold, and ended up selling his land. And then there was gold on his land. He never took the time to search or look around him where he was at before he started exploring in all kind of other different places. And I might have said that a bit wrong, especially if someone hears this and they're so familiar with it. So I said, don't be afraid to be wrong. I might be so wrong, and people might hear this and be like, man, that was so wrong. That wasn't he sold the land and bought the land and discovered the gold. What did you talk? Either way, you know what I mean? I'm trying to be confident in saying these things, knowing I could be wrong. But the moral of my story that I was telling, if I was wrong, was just look around you. You can find the help and the confidence and whatever it is right there, close enough that you don't have to go look in these far places for what you're looking for. But to go back to the entrepreneur side of it, man, that's why we reach out to these business entrepreneurs to say, okay, how did you go from A to Z? What steps did you take? What hurdles did you have? How did you bump your head? How didn't you? What enabled you to move faster than what, and then you can hear how they did it. You want to open this or open that. You want to do this and do that. And now you've seen through their steps, their trials and errors on how you can make it easier or better for yourself, which is what we should be doing, and not feel some type of way about anybody's speed. Someone picks up a basketball and is able to dribble it quicker than you and hey, just be confident and stand strong in the fact that you taught them how to do the crossover. You know what I mean? Just be confident in how far they're able to take it. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things I'm really happy with my my helper that works with me, is that he has a natural inclination for the trade and has taken it so far so fast, which is fantastic. And that's one of the things, even when he first started with me, I had certain limitations as well, because he can go work with a company and now gain field hours, which is what he's going to need in order to be a master electrician. You need documented field hours. I wasn't able to provide that for him. But I told him that from the start when we worked together. You need to get one of these companies that is able to give you field hours. And he may have thought I was just trying to push him off or tell him, but he ended up, we had conversations and he wasn't thinking that way. And that's now what he do. The company he works with now, he's able to get field hours. They're sending him to school. So by the time he's 30, he should be able to have his master's license or be so far ahead of where I was, because my focus wasn't fully there to have mine at 30, where I could have had I been fully focused on there. But I know I had this entrepreneur burning spirit that I didn't look at having an electrical company as what I wanted to do. Even though that's what I do now, it was always looked at, okay, that's something I can do to foster these other dreams that I'm having. But just always remember that in order to build these lofty dreams and have all of these grandiose things, you need to do it step by step by step. They say you need all these fields of revenue to be wealthy, but it start with mastering one, then you master two, then you master three, then you have 10 businesses, but each one has to be systematically ran without you being there for it to be considered a self-sufficient business. Once it can be ran without you being there or any one of your employees calling you for some glitch or something, that it can just run itself. And now that's when you move on to the next one. In my mind, I've always been over here, over there, starting here, starting there, and here I am now, mastering and formalizing this to the point where I'm giving back some information in terms of, okay, this is what you do. You incorporate, you get yourself a business, a name for your business. Be creative with the name, because that first name may not be available. And just, spell it with a K instead of a C. Spell it with a Z instead of an S. Get creative with it. Register with Secretary of State. Get you some business insurance. It's not terribly. A lot of time we limit ourselves by thinking these things are too grandiose. They're too fantastic. Don't do that. Do some research. Gain proper information so it can guide your steps. And that's what you got to do. And be confident in what you're doing. A lot of people ask me, like, look, I never thought you would be so self-conscious or this, that, and the third, because you do your electrical, so this, that, and the... I'm confident in my electrical. It's these other avenues that I'm so self-conscious in that now I'm having to realize that I should not be and should not. You know what I mean? So as I gained this epiphany with that, it's just so happened that that's just how the universe works, that someone else is able to benefit from it. And now that my helper and anyone else in the trade can just gain it and run with it farther. It's a baton. You pass it and the other person runs faster and farther. That's just the name of the game. And don't feel some type of way that you're 40, 50, 60 and now this young boy, young girl has now taken it and ran. No, that's what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to even be a vision to the point that they're looking at it like, okay, wait, by the time I'm your age. I was just having a conversation with my helper the other day. I'm in the attic grabbing the wire. He's pushing up, and he's like, dang, I had to realize that you're twice my age. I'm like, yeah. He said, you don't look it though. I'm like, yeah, I know. I try not to stress, my friend. But if by my age, he's supposed to be not turning no screwdrivers. He's supposed to have, can potentially have 4 or 5 trucks, 10 trucks, a whole crew of guys. Because now he's saying, some of his friends are calling him like, hey, how you do this? How you get into this, that, and the third? Because now he's an example to them. And they were doing whatever they were doing. Not saying they were doing nothing negative, bad, or anything like that. Because he's not that type of kid. Great parents. I'm just saying that now he's being able to be an example to someone to now instantly or quicker in their growth be moving on a positive note towards their growth. You know what I'm saying? So you got information, you got some understanding and some knowledge, give it to the young ones, because they need to grab that baton and run faster than you and farther than you, and don't feel some type of way that they're able to and you weren't, because that was what you were put there to do, to be that 50, 60, 40-year-old whoever that they look at and say, okay, at your age, I'm supposed to be this, and structure their life in a proper manner that you weren't able to, and they can benefit from it, and you not look at them with no resentment and no type of ill will. And when they ask you some questions, you're not like, oh man, now you're going to go better yourself even more. Yes, that's what he's supposed to do. Early in the trade, I came from residential, so I did not know how to bend conduit, EMT. And I had a lot of people that was in the commercial trade that wouldn't show me, because that was a skill I could now add to my resume. And they were thinking, oh, now you're going to take it and get more money than me or move. Well, that's just how that go. You know what I mean? You can't feel some type of way about that. Don't limit no one else because you feel they're going to go farther than you. That's what they're supposed to do. Stagnant is not what this thing is about, man. Don't limit someone, and don't hold no one down, and don't help to foster what they're trying to do, because that's what your job is, to help someone be better than you. You know what I mean? So do that, focus on that, and yeah, you know, I'm just glad I was able to get outside of this whole self-consciousness. I mean, I don't say I'm all the way, but I'm gonna own that I'm not in that mode anymore, because I know that that's not what I'm supposed to do. You know, I'm slowing down someone else's progress by being self-conscious, by being this, that, and the third. So I always tell people, don't be disobedient, man. Don't be disobedient. If you know this is what you're supposed to do or supposed to do, then you do it. And if you don't, then you're being disobedient, man. So just be mindful. Don't be disobedient. You got that information. Share it with that person. Don't feel like, don't hold them back because you're afraid of their progress. If anything, be proud of their progress because you helped get them there. And even that is a bit of ego. So you got to let the ego go and be able to get past that. Don't let your ego hinder you, hold you back. Let the ego go. Yeah, let the ego go. And I ain't gonna talk you to death on this particular one. I was just had this epiphany while I was driving. I'm actually doing this one differently too, because I'm recording it on the phone, and I normally don't do that. I normally sit by the computer, and I realized that slowed me down from some of this, because as I have these epiphany, I'm oftentimes walking and at work or what have you, and then by the time I get to the house to do it, then I either lose the energy to do it, or my mind is going on doing something else. And so I'm going to be more conscious and more mindful now. A friend of mine told me to get a little tape recorder, and as I'm having these things, just press the recorder and just, you know, do the rambles that way. So I went on and did that. So I encourage you to do that too. Get a notepad. Even get one of the mini recorders. They're real cost effective now. I think that one cost me like $15. But, you know, so wherever your budget is, you know what I mean? So let's do that. And I appreciate you listening to my ramble. I'm going to try to ramble more for you because it's not for me. And like that.